Welcome to the Know. I'm Ashley Jenkins.
I'm Mica Burton.
Move over, Breath of the Wild. You've had your time and it's done.
No.
Just 1 month after the newest Zelda game became one of the best reviewed games of the generation, we may already have a new challenger.
Like Super Smash. But it's not Super Smash, it's Persona 5. Persona 5 reviews are dropping left and right ahead of the game's April 4th release date, meaning we can finally answer the age-old question. Is it good?
In short, yes, so far. Persona 5 is holding a 94 on Metacritic with 37 reviews and climbing at the time of writing. And prepare yourselves, our JRPG fans, because these reviews are filled with all kinds of superlatives.
Before we get into the actual reviews, let's see how Persona 5 holds up to the rest of the series. The Persona games are an incredibly storied franchise, so this game certainly has a lot to live up to. And from the look of things, it totally does. Which is doubly nice considering you don't have to have played any of the previous games to enjoy this one.
Yeah, prior to Persona 5's 94, Persona 4 had a 90, with Persona 4 Golden, the upgraded re-release on Vita, scoring a 93. Meanwhile, Persona 3 had an 86, Persona 2 had an 83, and Persona 1 clocked in at 78. So it's all uphill.
It's a lot of numbers and I got briefly
They just keep getting better.
So, surprisingly enough, that makes this the best reviewed Persona game yet, which is saying something if you've been a fan of the series. Persona 4 Golden, in particular, is considered one of the best RPGs ever made by some.
Which, unfortunately, because Golden was for the Vita, not nearly enough people played.
Two people.
Kdin
and Greg Miller.
But they both really liked it.
And
and Eddy.
Three people.
As for how the biggest outlets individually scored the game, Persona 5 received perfect marks from The Guardian, US Gamer, Games Radar, RPG Site, and the Sixth Axis.
Grading it as almost perfect were IGN with a 9.7, GamesBeat with a 97 out of 100, and Game Informer, which gave it a 9.25 out of 10. In the 90% territory were Polygon, GameSpot, Destructoid, EGM, and Stevivor with a 9 out of 10.
The big dissenter was Jim Sterling. He gave it an 8.5 out of 10, which is the lowest score giver out of all the critics. So you guys warm up your DDoS machines, right? It's been like weeks since
Get the pitchforks in the fire.
said he didn't like their game enough.
Like we said before, the reviews for this game are of the glowing variety, so you might want to get some UV protection of some kind before diving in.
Always wear sunscreen.
Or sunglasses. Both.
Yes.
Very protected. Eurogamer calls it a kinetic masterpiece, for instance, while RPG Site says it's one of the best Japanese RPGs in recent memory, if not ever. Wow. To round things out, GamesBeat writes, Persona 5 knows that it's special and you'll soon know it too.
So, yeah, people really love this game. More specifically, the things they love are the game's story, the turn-based combat, which is flashy and still super interesting despite its repetition, and its amazing presentation complete with a gorgeous art style and fantastic soundtrack.
So basically, they love almost every part of the game. That sounded like an entire game right there.
Yeah, it's all the pieces.
However, there were a couple common criticisms, most notably with Persona 5's final act pacing, and a tutorial that drags on, perhaps a little too long for series veterans.
If those are your nitpicks, you're probably doing okay.
Yep.
First things first, longtime Persona fans who may be worried that this game's going mainstream could mean a huge change in mechanics, you've got nothing to worry about. This game is a Persona game through and through.
IGN says, Persona 5 is the culmination of everything the JRPG series has been building to, with familiar elements dialed up to 11 and some welcome new surprises added into the mix.
It follows the familiar path of the last couple of games in the series. You're a high school student trying to balance a social life and going to school by day while fighting demonic monsters in a secret metaverse by night, which
normal.
Of course you do, right?
Yeah, everybody in Japan does this.
Sure.
Longtime fans will know that balancing those two things is part of what makes the game so addicting. How you choose to spend your time during the day directly affects your powers, abilities, and strength for the dungeon crawling. All the systems interlock, creating a very satisfying experience according to reviewers.
Jim Sterling writes, honestly, I really didn't mind spending almost all day every day for multiple weeks being a magic Japanese schoolboy. Persona 5 made trading any semblance I had of a social life for a fake one full of talking cats and jock punks seem like a worthwhile and valuable use of my time.
Games Radar agreed, stating, swing for the fences, at the batting cages, study for exams, go fishing, visit a maid cafe, watch X-Files DVDs, work a shift at the flower shop, do your laundry, brew some coffee. All these activities benefit you in some way, and cramming them into your schedule in between infiltrating palaces and building relationships is a constant tension in the background as you play.
Part of what makes the slice of lifestyle gameplay work at all is the focus on the game's many main and side characters who you'll really want to get to know, not just because the game rewards you in battle for the strength of your social bonds, now called confidants, but also because they're just interesting.
US Gamer says, there's the silent protagonist, the pretty popular girl, the stern student council president, the goofy animal character, the rowdy best friend, and so on. Yet, Persona 5 is disinterested in those archetypes, letting each character smash through their stereotypes' typical expectations, as per the game's theme of disavowing society's constraining embrace.
But not everyone felt quite so positively about all that. In their review, EGM complains, the characters you'll be spending the game with are essential in a Persona game, and while I became far more endeared to the team here than the one in Persona 3, they didn't win me over quite as much as who we got in Persona 4.
The characters you'll be spending time with in Persona 5's super stylish Tokyo will get even more of a focus as your main party during combat. And judging from the critics, it sticks to Persona's turn-based roots while offering some very welcome improvements.
GameSpot writes, Persona 5's combat pulls together some of the best elements from previous games, and it's borderline addictive as a result.
Always good when you're going to spend 100 hours doing the same thing over and over and over again.
It does help.
GamesBeat said something similar. Despite being turn-based, battles are bursting with energy. Things that are usually dull or utilitarian, like the battle menus, pop-ups with flashy designs and animations. Even the battle report at the end of each fight looks great with its pop art-like graphics.
Now, one of the big changes to combat is that Persona 5 streamlines it in notable ways, giving you a quick button press to use a particular move if you've already found that it's effective to an enemy's weakness, for instance.
There are also new ways of acquiring personas, the monsters you collect throughout the game to help you in battle. In a return to some of the series' older mechanics, Persona 5 allows you to negotiate to have a demon join your team after you've knocked them down in combat.
Some reviewers had some quibbles with this mechanic, since it is hard to know what you're supposed to say to win the demon over, though. But others found the dialogue very fun and a step up from the way you acquired them in the past, which was basically luck of the draw.
Of course, the places where you'll be taking part in all of these battles come through the game's dungeons, which are known as palaces. And palaces got very high praise, especially due to its high emphasis on stealth this time around.
GameSpot says, palaces are the best dungeons the series has ever had. No longer are you climbing through levels of procedurally generated corridors to reach a boss at the top. Instead, each palace contains a myriad of puzzles to crack, traps to avoid, and of course, shadows to defeat. They are intricate, striking locations that unravel as you explore them, each varying in size, scope, and gameplay opportunities.
But not everybody felt that the measures to overhaul the dungeons from previous Persona games worked completely. Game Informer said, this is a noteworthy evolution for the series, but within the larger RPG landscape, their designs still feel outdated. I appreciate the attempts to add dimension by letting players jump on top of some objects and hide behind others, but they aren't consistent enough.
Tying all this together are the game's story and themes, which many felt were the series' best yet. Polygon writes, but what surprised me about Persona 5, what sets it apart from its predecessors, is just how much it has to say. Persona 5 is a game about rebellion, politics, and enacting social change, and it's not afraid to be brash and outspokenly stylish while addressing those concerns.
In a game filled with things to adore, many critics found the game's story to be incredibly engaging. What's not to love about teenagers going on metaphysical heists to save the world and stop people from doing bad things? With reviewers saying that even though the game takes 100 hours to complete, there are few down moments, and even when there are, the side quests are so compelling that you'll hardly notice.
However, one area where that faltered a little bit was the game's final act, where things slowed down and felt a little padded out, according to critics. Games Radar states, Persona is just about perfect in every way it can be, with the sole exception of its pacing in the final acts. The last two dungeons are a slog, forcing you to solve a series of similar puzzles long after they've lost their ability to either challenge or intrigue. It's an aggravating misstep at what should be the most thrilling part of the entire journey.
But generally, that was just about the only complaint people had with the game. And last but not least, we've also got to mention the UI, which, if you've seen any videos at all from this game, you'll know it's pretty slick. Stevivor writes, every facet of the interface is dripping with cool. While Persona 4 Golden had a great interface on the Vita, P5 may have the boldest UI I've ever seen in a game.
So that rounds out our review wrap-up for the very well-received Persona 5. In all, it sounds like a great return to form for the series, with plenty to love for both newcomers and series fans alike.
According to reviewers, it's got an excellent story, compelling characters, and a super addictive structure that complements its combat and dungeon crawling. You've probably spent dozens of hours being obsessed with this game if you like JRPGs.
Yeah, so what do you guys think of the really ridiculously good reviews of Persona 5? Does that make you interested? If you weren't before, let us know in the comments.
For future review roundups of the hottest new releases, remember to like this video and subscribe to The Know. Which is doubly nice considering you don't have to have don't have to have played. With reviewers saying that even though the games.
So it's like an 80s movie.
Or like a classic anime. Both.
Yes. Like a basement score of 85.
The basement score was saying, I loved being a Japanese magical boy.